If you're looking to dip your toe into dungeon activities, or if you're a seasoned dungeon vet who's looking to get better rewards, the new Rite 9 dungeon activities coming out May 6th, and it offers lots of great things for both novice and experienced dungeon folks alike. At a high level, it's going to start from modes that basically allow you to have no darkness zones, really short revive timers, actual tooltips, waypoints, and helpers to actually, if you're someone who's new, to more of a middle range, and then ultimately to a mode where you'll have contest mode and no swap penalties. This promises to be similar to the Pantheon event last year for raids, but in this case, it starts you from a very easy, if you've never done a dungeon, all the way to endgame content. It looks to be a very cool activity with reprised weapons that are going to have all sorts of new perks. As part of that, there's going to be 3 featured dungeons. There's going to be Prophecy, Spire the Watcher, and Ghost the Deep. So everything from something that's kind of old and kind of simple to something that's in the middle to probably one of the hardest dungeons in the game. In this video, I'm going to attempt to get you prepared for it. Obviously, we don't have all the details, but in this video, I'm going to go over every encounter from each of those 3 dungeons. Basically, allow you to get a refresher if you're an experienced player, or if you're new to dungeons, it'll give you kind of an idea, starting with the core mechanics, how each dungeon works. So let's get into the video. So the core mechanic for Spire the Watcher is getting Arctrition and basically connecting circuits. You get Arctrition by killing a Conduit Minotaur. They'll drop a puddle, get in the puddle, you'll get Arctrition for about 30 seconds. Your goal then is to, on a circuit, find a source, shoot that source, and then follow each node in order, shooting them to basically connect it to a destination. Every time you shoot one of those nodes, you extend Arctrition by 5 seconds. If you take too long, you lose it. You have to go back to Conduit Minotaurs and get it again. If for some reason you shoot them in the wrong order, they'll reset and you'll have to go back and get the Conduit Minotaurs and get Arctrition again. But once you get the Arctrition, connect all the nodes to the area at the end, that is how you complete a circuit. This is the core mechanic for this particular dungeon. Now that you know the core mechanic, let's see how you use it in game. So in the first encounter, Reestablish Power, you're basically going to do that. You're trying to complete the circuits. There are a total of 4 circuits in the middle. So find each of the beginning areas, go through, shoot them in order, and once you get all 4 of those completed, that is when you can go down and finish the encounter. There's no boss or anything like that. The next encounter is Ascend the Spire. And Ascend the Spire, again, you're doing the same thing. You're trying to connect the Arctrition buffs and just go from the source all the way to the end. In this case, they're going to kind of wind around the ceiling, under bridges, so it gets a little tricky. Ultimately, you're going to connect 2 complete circuits, one going around the right side and one going around the left side of that entire level. Once you do that, and obviously you have to clear ads and everything else, elevators will show up. Go up the elevator. You'll go to the next level. You'll do exactly the same thing. Do this a total of 3 times. You'll get loot here. And then at that point, once you get the elevator, you'll start moving over to the next encounter. One thing of note, there's a lot of ads. You have to be careful of those. And again, there will be hydras that will show up in different areas, and they can be a little bit difficult to deal with. This next encounter will be your first true DPS phase. Again, similar to the other words, you'll notice there's 4 areas you're going to connect. And if you're in a fire team of 3, typically we'll divide up and have everyone do 1. And then when they're finished, do the last one. Because when you do the last one, the boss is actually going to come over to you to do DPS. One of the things with this one, it can be tricky because the things you're going to shoot, they kind of go underneath and they go on top. And so it's really important. In fact, if you have a set fire team, it might even be good to let people do the same one every time. But it gets a little tricky knowing which ones you have to shoot. Because again, they get hidden. They go underneath and on top of things. So just keep that in mind. Once you're done, you connect all 4. He comes in for DPS. Just like with Garden of Salvation, you're basically going to shoot all the eyes. Once you shoot all the eyes, he'll be available for DPS. Do DPS. And at the very end, you'll notice when he'll move towards the center. When he gets towards the center, he's actually going to do a stomp mechanic that's going to boop you off. So at that point, you can either hide under one of the platforms, or you could just be prepared to use a sword or something else. Just be prepared that he's going to do an aggressive boop attack on you, and you don't want to get knocked off. So the final encounter in Perseus, and this will be the boss encounter for this dungeon. For this one, you're going to be starting in a room that's called the Safe Room. In this room, you're going to have 2 hydras. You're going to kill those. Once the hydras are there, you can get Arctrition from the Minotaurs again. Once you have this, you'll notice there's a boss in there. The boss is a shield that you can't shoot. Your goal then is to take the Arctrition and shoot the 5 nodes over the door, the main door, so that the door is open so you can get the reactor room. Once this is complete, your goal then is to do two things. One is to get the boss to follow you into the reactor room. The second goal is there are going to be two paths of circuits that are going to want to connect. Those are to activate reactors in the reactor room. Once you do that, once you have the boss in the reactor room, and once you have those nodes completed, you're going to see basically a notice that says that there's going to be a reactor purge to get to safety immediately. That's your cue to skedaddle back to the original room and again shoot the 5 nodes above the door. This will seal the door, seal the boss in the reactor room. That nuclear explosion will actually drop his shields. Once that is done, he will come through once everything's complete and start coming towards you. At that point, you can start DPS. Do DPS as much as you can, continue chipping away at him, and that's a full cycle. Do that as many times as it takes to finish and kill the boss. For this first encounter, you will use a lot of the same mechanics that we use later in the dungeon. You'll notice that there is a door that prevents you going from the next area. That door will not open until you cleanse 2 plates, a light one and a dark one that are at the end of the room. To do this, you have to kill taken knights to drop motes, similar to what you get in Gambit, based on whether your character is in a light area or a darkness area. This can be hard to see, so one thing you can do is if you pay attention in your lower left-hand corner, you'll notice like a little glow, and it'll either be white or black. That'll tell you whether you're in darkness, and you have to kill the enemy. It doesn't matter where the enemy is. It matters where you are. So the enemy could be in dark. If you're in light and you shoot him and kill him and he's in light, you're going to get light motes. That's one thing to keep in mind. You need 5 motes to cleanse a plate, and each knight drops 3. If you pick up 3 dark first, for instance, and then actually pick up light, it will wipe out the dark motes and basically give you the same count of light motes that you picked up. So again, that's one thing you have to be careful about, where you kill things and what you're picking up. Also, the motes are on a timer, just like in Gambit, and when you pick them up, there's a timer on you as well before they'll expire. So you can't wait forever to get all 5 to cleanse. To cleanse, go to the plate in question, and for most people, depending on your setup on your controller or your keyboard, you're going to hit the grenade button to cleanse. Once you finish cleansing these 2 plates, the door will open and you'll be presented with another area that's exactly the same. Rinse and repeat, do the same type of mechanics, finish up those 2 plates, and then you'll move through the door. And you'll notice that the Kel Echo, who's the boss for the whole dungeon, will start going down the hallway, and you'll chase him up a bunch of different jumping areas to the next encounter. This next encounter is a Phalanx Echo. It's a big boss with a immunity shield that you have to take off. So to do that, you have to cleanse 4 plates that are on pillars. There are 2 dark and 2 light. Once you clear those plates, the shield will drop off the boss. At that point, start doing damage to him. One thing to keep in mind, this will be a ton of ads. You have to watch out for those. There also are the little scions, and they will actually re-shield the boss. So make sure that they don't get in the way and do that. So you may have to kill some of those, but keep doing DPS to the boss, and then you'll either clear them out this first time, or you'll have to go another phase. If you know the other phase, just do the same mechanics, rinse and repeat. Next is the Wastelands. This area is an open space where you can sparrow between zones. To understand the arena, check out this map that shows the locations. I didn't make this, but skulls are potential places for blights, and you can see where you spawn in and where you exit. You'll notice a glowing orb that's Toland, which will give you some messages and stuff like that. He will just show up generally and tell you where to go. He will tell you the next area by the direction in which he zooms away when you take out a blight. So you take out a blight, he'll go left, right, or wherever. If you generally follow the direction, you'll see the next area that you need to do. Each area has a few blights to take out, as well as some snipers. The snipers can be a pain, so sniper protection is ideal here. And if you can take them out, feel free to do those to be as safe as possible. You don't have to, but they can be kind of annoying. Remember, for blights, you can stand on top of the blight and avoid damage and take the blight down. So you don't have to be underneath, and you can also avoid the ads that way. Finish the blights in one area and watch Toland tell you where to go next. Once you do this 3 times, a door will open the next room. There are 2 places where the door can be, but you will be able to tell which because Toland will show you the way to go. If you go to one of the towers and it isn't open, then it's going to be the other one on the side of the map. Again, they're kind of opposite of each other. The cube or hexahedron. For this encounter, and this one's really a trippy encounter, you will see 4 platforms that are either dark or light in an area that's lit up above them. You will also see Tolan in one of those areas that's lit up. Again, up higher. Whichever one he's above, you need to cleanse that platform with the corresponding dark or light color that's on that platform. If you don't see Tolan for some reason, because sometimes he won't show up on any of the 4, then at that point you can do any platform. It doesn't matter which. And again, you don't only need to do 1. Collect your motes and cleanse. Once you do that, go to the center area of the room. That'll be lit up, and then the room will rotate. What actually is happening is you're rotating among the different walls of the room. It looks like you're actually warping to another room, but that's just a visual effect that Bungie put in. When you get to the final area, kill the 2 final bosses, and then you're done with this encounter. So the next area is called Singularity, or we affectionately call it Rainbow Road. And if you played Mario Kart in the past, you'll know what we mean. Next, you go back to the Wasteland area and go to the other door opposite of how you got in the cube. The boss will actually end up being there, so you know at the right place because the boss will be sitting outside of it. Once you're in there, you'll see we're talking about this beautiful, gorgeous, like purplish area that, again, a lot of people call the Rainbow Road encounter because it's got ribbons. It looks like Rainbow Road. If you're not careful, you will fall off your Sparrow. For this one, you can Sparrow and walk continuously down the ribbon roads to these open pyramids. There'll be a number of enemies along the way, including some snipers. You have to decide if you want to deal with them or not deal with them. One tip I would give you is as you're sparrowing, you can generally hear when they're shooting or getting ready to shoot. So that's when you can decide to speed up or slow down your Sparrow so they can't shoot you. And you can also decide just to walk the entire thing if you're trying to be conservative. Do that. Continue to go through. There is a hidden chest in one of the last pyramids before you exit. And then when you get to the bottom, again, just keep going down. As you get to the bottom, there's an area that will kind of suck you up and take you to the final boss area. So look for that. It looks like kind of rotating concentric squares, but you'll know it when you see it. The next area is where we get to the boss. The boss is a Kel Echo. Again, when you get into there, there'll be some thrall that you need to kill, and a hallway that'll get you to the actual boss room. At the boss room, there's going to be a rally flag, and you'll notice that the room has several roof wall areas that you will rotate to, similar to the cube. So if you look and you see the roof in this area looks like this, or this wall looks like that, at some point, depending on how many DPS phases, you will end up on that wall, because that's what happens between DPS phases. Start the encounter, you will kill ads and knights for motes again. Again, this room can get overwhelming with the thrall spawning, so I would try to get them under control as quickly as possible. Again, the build I mentioned makes it pretty easy to do that, again, without wasting ammo. You will notice there are 3 areas that are lit around each corner of the room. And you'll notice that's a version of the boss sitting in each of those areas. And that can make it more difficult to stay in those areas. What I would do really quickly, gather your motes, pick one of the areas, whether it's light or dark, get the motes that you need, and clear that area as quickly as possible by going and cleansing. Once you cleanse, an ogre will show up. You can use your cover to kind of protect you, but what I would do is I would just as quickly as possible take that guy down, right? You can even, I was using a fusion rifle and I took him out in 3 shots. Again, even though he's an ogre, he's not terribly chunky. You just don't want to get him going. You don't want him to start blasting you with his eye attack, right? You just want to, as quickly as possible, get him down. The great thing once you do that is the area that he spawned at then does not have that version of the boss. So you can use that as a staging area to protect yourself if you run into problems for some reason. At that point, keep cleansing and killing ogres. On the last cleanse, you can ignore the final ogre and head to the middle area. Again, similar to what happened to the cube, and that will take you to the boss arena. The boss arena is like nothing you've ever seen. You'll see the boss on a platform. You'll see a series of platforms going back to a big platform at the very back of the room. He'll shoot a wave of darkness at you. Avoid this as it'll warp you back to the beginning of the room, which isn't a big deal now. It will be later. One reason to avoid this, besides the fact that it takes you further away from the boss and doing DPS, is that the further away from the boss, you get a darkness debuff that's put on you. If that debuff gets to 10, you die. Also, as it increases, you do less damage. So that's one reason to be very careful, because if you get into that wave and you get stuck back to the beginning and he's at the very end of the map, there's a chance that you could try to keep going forward and just die just from trying to reach him. So that's one thing. Just be very careful and use cover to help yourself then. At the beginning, I would use a burst DPS super, or in this case, my Gathering Storm, to stick on him so you know that you have guaranteed damage. And then I would move to a platform. You can use Wither Horde or Anarchy to do tick damage. So again, it's all about doing damage over time while you're still moving around, because your goal here really is to survive and do whatever damage you can do. Snipers will begin to spawn on the plates near the boss, and he'll continue to teleport to the back of the room. It's very important to control the snipers as much as possible. You don't necessarily have to kill them all, but just keep in mind they will shoot at you, so use cover or kill them. It's your choice. You want to continue to do chip damage, and then where you can, do your damage on the boss. Use your other weapons. One thing to keep in mind is obviously you have to stay close to the boss so you don't get that debuff. The other thing you need to keep in mind is that if he uses that wave attack on you, you're going to go all the way back. You can hide from that wave attack by using the little pillars that are on each of the portals or each of the platforms to kind of protect yourself from that. Keep that in mind. The platforms are your friends. So for the core mechanics of this dungeon, there are a variety of them, and they vary depending on the encounter. First off, one of the mechanics is that you'll kill certain enemies to drop green traces. These green traces are similar to the Wrathborn huts in that they show you to a location where you're going to do an additional action. The other type of mechanic is there'll be deep sight resonance. So there are enemies you will kill, and it depends on the encounter what the enemies are, that will give you deep sight resonance. This deep sight resonance will reveal to you certain types of runes that you need to take action on. Another mechanic is getting Vestige of Light. You get Vestige of Light from crushing a light bearer. You can then use that to dunk into various portions of the encounter to advance the encounter. Finally, to start DPS in the encounters that have bosses in them, you will have to kill an enemy to get what looks like a green puddle that you will use to take off the immunity shield. The way this happens varies by encounter, but for the 2 DPS-oriented encounters, this is what you will be doing to start DPS. First off, I'm going to put this map up. I didn't make it, but the credits are in the map to show you what you need to do this encounter. Go to the ritual sites in the center of the map. You can use a Spire to get there. Once you get there, kill a Hive Ogre. Once you kill that Hive Ogre, it will drop a green trace on the ground, similar to what you've seen in like the Wrathborn huts. That will show you the location of the first Hive rune. If you don't happen to see that, you can still loop around and look for it. The Hive rune will be floating above an area. Once you get to that area, kill all the enemies. Do this a total of 3 times. On the third one, when you kill the enemies, make sure you're looking at the rune that's on top. That's going to be very important. You're going to see a Hive Lightbearer. Kill and crush the ghost. Whoever crushes a ghost is going to get a buff called Vestige of Light. You will need to take that back to the ritual site, and it has a timer. It's 80 seconds. If you don't put it back into where it needs to go in that period of time, you will die. Go back to the ritual site. You're then going to kill a wizard. Once you kill that wizard, it'll spawn a deep sight node. Take that deep sight node, and you will reveal all 6 Hive totems. Put the Vestige of Light into the totem that matches the one that was above where you killed that light bearer. Do this a total of 4 times, and that's the way you open the door and proceed through the dungeon. For this encounter, I'm also going to put up a map, similar, put together by the same people who put the one I had previously. Again, not my map, but I'll give credit below. In this encounter, what you're going to want to do is you're going to start killing enemies. You're going to notice that are knights. Kill those knights to spawn an ogre. Once you kill the ogre, a deep sight module will drop. Do the deep sight, and on the hanging plates, you'll see 3 symbols that show up. Once you have those 3 symbols and they're memorized, have someone, or not multiple people, depends on how you want to do this, have someone go down and dive underneath. Obviously, you'll be limited in time on how long you can dive because there is a timer to this where you will die if you stay down too long. So go underneath and find each of those symbols. Interact with them. Every time you do that, a light bearer Hive wizard will show up on the top area. Kill that, crush its ghost, get Vestige of Light. Then what you're going to do is deposit the Vestige of Light in any of the 3 totems. Again, there's 3 totems in the top part. So really the goal is go down below, take the 3 symbols, interact with them, kill as they come up each of the light bearers, dunk the vestige into each of the totems. At that point, you're set up for DPS. To do DPS, what you're going to need to do is there's going to be a knight that shows up. Kill the knight. It'll show up right around the center of the arena where you spawned in. Kill it, and it'll drop a puddle. That puddle will allow you to take off the shield off of the boss. You will have a time-limited period to do DPS. So for the boss encounter, Really, your job at the very beginning is, first off, smash the hive ghost to start the encounter. You're going to want to try to move around, kill all the enemies, and eventually you'll see deep side nodes spawn. Again, I'll put one in this map, not my map, but I'll give credit below. This map will show you the potential areas that each of the deep side nodes can show up. When you find one, use a deep site. At that point, you're going to see green beams form, a triangle. Your goal at this point is, there's a guy that's chasing around, this Vorlog, Risen, and Heresy Hive Knight. He's going to be chasing you around. Your goal is to go to one of those 3 areas you saw and kill him inside that area. It will glow when you stand inside, so you know that you're doing it correctly. After you kill him, you're going to see kind of a green circle, and you're going to see a hive symbol. Your goal is to kind of get them lined up. So you're going to want to shoot with a weapon. You're going to shoot the hive symbol while it's lined up in the circle. When you do that, a rune is going to show up where you killed Vorlog, and you've completed one of the 3 areas you need to do. Do that 2 more times at each of the 3 areas you saw in that triangle that you saw with the deep site. So now your next phase is to go to each of the 3 caves. Again, everyone can do this differently. You can leave one person in the middle if you'd like to kill ads. But if you want to do this quickly, you can have all 3 people, because again, there's 3 different locations you can go to. Each of those are going to have a hive guardian in each cave. Crush their ghost to gain a corresponding vestige buff. One thing to keep in mind, if you get confused about where you're at, and if you want to find it, any place that you have that has like enemies, there's going to be a valid hive guardian in those areas. Remember that rune you saw, so before you kill it, make sure you look at the rune. That rune is going to tell you where to deposit your vestige in. Again, remember, you're going to need to get deep sight every time that you come back, right? So it will go away after a while, so make sure you get that. Deposit your vestige of light with the corresponding runes. Once you do that with those 3, that's where you start DPS. When you start DPS, basically there will be green puddles like you've had before that will show up in each of the areas you've activated. Stand inside those to destroy the immunity shield. At that point, you just do DPS. The boss does move around quite a bit, so keep that in mind when doing DPS. There will also be moths that show up, so you'll need to protect against that. So, again, continue to do DPS, and if you don't get it on the first time, keep doing the mechanics you have, and you'll be done with this dungeon. That's the video. If you like it, feel free to like it, subscribe to my channel, and jump my Discord, and I'll see you Guardians in the tower.